I don't have my helper today, but here's some of the things we got completed yesterday. Put the top on that tip of the wing there, and it looks really nice. I'm happy with that, and that is going to be good and strong. So hanging rash and stuff like that, hopefully when stuff gets bumped into it, it's not going to break and crack and stuff. So that's good. I've got the aileron mocked up a bit here. Got the hinges held in there. I've got the deflection at about 33 degrees up, which is more than sufficient. It's just touching on that nut right now. I'll have to see how it goes when I have the cover on the top of the aileron there. So that works nicely. Now, I've got this middle hinge in there. This is going to be longer bolts. I forgot. There's a 3/4 piece inch of plywood that goes in there that's going to hold the hinge for the aileron tube. There's not really a good picture of this stuff anywhere. The only one I came up with was this, and it doesn't really give any dimensions or anything like that at all. These bolts here are the bolts that go right through from the hinge on the aileron through to the hinge on the aileron tube. When I get that in place, I'll show you that. That's the only thing I see there. One question I have, the DHAC 10A, according to the plans, is just a piece of PVC tubing. So I'm assuming it's just a piece of PVC they're putting over the end of that just for the heck of it. It's not going to stop the aileron tube from going that way because it's held back at the other end. It just might cap off the end there. I'm not really sure. So I'm assuming that's what that is. These are the blocks for the aileron that are in, there's one right here. So you got a plan for bolts coming through on this side to hold the hinge in there as well. And then another one right here, aileron. There's the blocking right there for the other hinge that'll hold the tube there. I've got in the spacers here, so all this, the fabric will come down nicely across there. And what I'm going to do today here is the same thing. I'm going to block this out. I think I'm going to cut these right off. I'm going to make a block that's going to go the full length all the way along there and have the angle cut in there for the aileron, the nose of the aileron, so that it creates that cove in there all the way along. And I'm going to do that today is the plan. And what that'll do is create that cove for the aileron and be nice and smooth the entire way so the fabric can wrap right down and around there. Now, in order for that to happen, if you want to fabric your wing, you take the aileron off so you can fabric the wing. To do that, this will have to come off in order to cover the wing. So, underneath there, have people built an access point under here where they can get at the nuts to hold all that, which is going to be a nightmare trying to do that. I don't know, maybe put the access point here to try and get at the nuts in there. I was thinking to put T-nuts, but I realized that's not going to work because you're going to have the aileron hinge there as well. Maybe riv nuts on the hinge of the aileron, but I don't think that will work because they'll stick out a bit. So what do people do there? Do they make access holes so that you can get your fingers in there and hold a nut while you're trying to tighten it? That's where the 12-year-old girl hands come in handy, to try and get your fingers in there to hold the nuts. Let me know, and I will see how that works. I'm ready to put on the nose ply here. I'm just waiting for lock nuts, because once these get in place and covered, you're never going to see those again. So I got to get the lock nuts on there before we put the nose ply onto the aileron. That's what we're going to be at today. And we'll talk to you later. One other thing I was going to show you is the only real diagram of the aileron system here, and I've drawn this in. On the aileron torque to here, DHW29G is the block, DHAW6 is the angle iron that it gets to. I've drawn this in here. This is the aileron hinge L bracket. Those bolts go right through. I haven't put on this yet, this 3/4 inch, and this DHW6. They go right through and into that. So you've got to get some long bolts to go all the way through here. I'll let you know what those are, because nobody says anywhere what they are. So I'll let you know about that. I've got my little quarter angle glued on there. I cut off the ribs, created a flat surface there, and just glued it on like that. I'm going to put the aileron back on afterwards and make sure that I've got clearance all the way along there. But that's what we're aiming for now. It's just smoother. I don't have to notch out ribs, and you have to cut it and machine it to that profile anyways. It's a lot easier just cutting off the ribs than it is notching the ribs. And there's not a lot of material there anyway, so I'm not sure if it would be notching the ribs or just cutting this part to fit where the ribs are. All right. Just going to show cutting aluminum channel with bandsaw with the wood blade. That's a pretty beefy channel, but you did a pretty good job of going through there. Take your time. I'll smooth that off now, and went off a little bit, but that's all right. Now just take it over to the smoothed off now. Now I'm going to cut it. It spreads heat fast. That's why you have beer cozies. Cut it here and cut it here to leave this horn on. And that will be the Aileron torque tube actuator. How's it going to go? Tube goes in this way, it's going to go like that. So, some progress over the last little while. I've got the leading edge on the aileron. I've cut out the little notches for the hinges. One thing that I'm going to do that's different from the plans. In the plans, we've got a piece of angle that will be mounted on the rear spar and have a hole cut for the aileron torque tube. I've got a bunch of roller bearings that I'm going to put on there, cut a hole in there, put the bearing into the angle, and then I'll use a piece of plastic and hold that bearing in with just a piece of plastic around the edge there. That will give that torque tube no resistance at all. So there's going to be no resistance on that, and with my little bearings on there, there'll be no resistance on the aileron. So the aileron system should be as low as resistance as possible for the build, I'm hoping, and we'll see what happens. So that's what I've been up to. I think this is going to be, I'm using my phone because the stupid camera died on me. I think you've seen everything else. Corner wingtip I've got boxed in. I've got these little strengthening things, the T's, to strengthen that tip. I've got varnish on just about everything. I think what I'm going to do is get the spray gun out. Now that the weather's getting nicer out there, I can open up the door, get the spray gun, and give it a final coat with the spray gun. It is a lot of work, and painting all of these inside, upside, backside, bottom, top, getting in those little crevices is a real pain. So I want to just go over the whole thing with the spray gun, make sure that everything's done. I'm getting this off the bench today. I'm still waiting on hardware. Nuts, bolts, angle iron. So I'm gonna get it off of the bench today. I'm gonna start on wing 2, and that should move along quickly since I know what I'm doing now. And hopefully within a couple months I'll have the other wing built, and then we can start on the fuselage. All right, signing off for now. It's a nice day. I think I might go out and enjoy it a little bit, but I wanted to get, I haven't done a video for a while. I just wanted to get you caught up. I'm still alive and doing things. Yeah, I don't have all the travel that I had without that. Probably hitting on a little nut in there. So what I'm gonna do is get some micro bubbles and fill in to get that good and solid, and then just sand that out a bit where it wants to meet. So just give that a light sanding, or maybe not so light sanding, to create a little dent right where that bolt hits it, to give me more play there. This one turned out pretty good. It doesn't hit the bolts because it's in a hole there. A hole that you're supposed to do. I've got that little edge on there. That's the top part of the Aileron cove, I guess you call it. I don't know how much space is needed all along there. I'm still thinking about putting the covering on, and with the Challenger, what they had, this wraps all the way down, and then they attach it, so air can't flow down through there. Still thinking about that. Also, with this hinge, I can put nuts on right now, and when I cover it, I can cut the covering around the hinge. With this hinge, I can put the nuts on now and cover it and just go around the hinge. I don't think that's a problem. This hinge actually has to put on after, because it comes this way onto the aileron to hold the aileron. So this hinge has to be put on after you do the covering. But how in the world do you get at those nuts down there when the covering's on? Now you can do an access panel on the bottom there, but then again you're dealing with all kinds of lattice work in there to try and get your fingers up around the torque tube with wrenches to hold those. So I've asked on Facebook, haven't really got an answer as to whether or not T-nuts will work. Danielle used hidden nuts, what do you call those, with two screws that will hold a nut plate on there. And then I'm assuming just screw the screws right into the wood on each side. So screw there, screw there. For the bottom one, do the same thing so that a nut plate is actually on those. And I've got those ordered, so I'm waiting for those as well. I think that's what I'm gonna do, because actually trying to get at that with just an access panel, I don't think you'd be able to get your hands in there or a wrench in there to get on that. But a nut plate seems to be the answer. Here's a question for those that do nut plates. You get locking nut plates. You put Loctite on the bolt when you're putting it in. What's your solution for that? Still waiting for the hinges for the flaps. Flaps right there, good to go. And I haven't got an answer yet on Facebook. I'll ask again, or on here. You guys paint your aluminum, or do you just leave those? Or do you anodize them? All right, that's enough for today. But there are some questions. Anyone got any answers?